Hello everyone, I'm Admiral Ellis and welcome back to another episode of the Admiral's Musings. This week was kind of a slow week, but we did pay a visit to the kingdom of Majesto, which is on a planet which has no name other than just Majesto, because that's what we call it. That was the main interaction with them. I know I've talked about this a few times, but I've never really gotten into it because I never finished the story behind it, or well, of it, which is the sorcerer's daughter. Just recap. Not really recap. I don't think I've gone over this before. I was accused of the murder of the master sorcerer of the kingdom. Therefore I was sentenced to his last wishes, basically, which was that I be handcuffed to... This sounds really weird, the way I'm phrasing it. Essentially, I become a prisoner of his daughter, the sorceress, the sorcerer's daughter, until she comes of age and kills me. But it's not really that I'm a prisoner of her. She comes with me, basically. I mean, I'm sure they didn't anticipate the fact that it would be... Well, it wasn't, but... They didn't anticipate the fact that it would be someone that wasn't of this world, their world. So it was a little bit confused. I ended up teaching this girl, Grace Majesto, a lot about orbital mechanics, a lot about time travel, space. Did eventually track down the person who killed her father. Was connected through a plot with some other people who were part of a whole nother story, actually, with a different solar system that I'll get to in a minute. Because I might be able to write about that story now. I lost a lot of the data that was recorded while we were there because of well, broke some crystals, and it wasn't backed up properly. So I lost all that data that we took, and memory isn't great. But coming around to the Kingdom of Majesto, of course, I was praying for Stockholm Syndrome at that point because I was stuck with literally handcuffed to, but not in the way we think. They used gold handcuffs. Now, they're basically just two bracelets. They aren't connected by any sort of chain. They're connected by an electromagnetic link. If you go out of range for too long, it poisons both the captor and the prisoner. Technically, again, since she was in control, she got the captor thing. She got the captor bracelet, and I got the regular one, and the prisoner one. They were originally designed so that if you went out of range of, it would poison the both of them because, of course, it would keep the prisoner from escaping, and it would also punish the captor for not keeping their prisoner with them. Kind of ridiculous, but it got the job done. Also, if either one of them died, it would poison the other one. Again, because of the being a bad captor thing, if you let your prisoner die, you failed. These were modified so that if she killed me, she wouldn't die. In fact, the thing would just pop off on its own. And apparently they had technology that could track the bracelets, at least. Not necessarily the individuals, but they could track the bracelets. I'm not sure how far that technology extended, but they did make mention to the fact that they lost us at one point or another. Probably when we went to Mabel's Cafe, or left the timeline, or any of those things, because I doubt their equipment was designed for an extraterrestrial visitor, extraterrestrial time traveler to come down and be accused of killing the Master Sorcerer. Where was I? I got off on a tangent about the handcuffs. But yeah, no, I was handcuffed to her. Again, sounds weird. And for a while, she just absolutely hated me because she thought I killed her father. Again, we proved that wrong. We changed her mind about me You know, we're take any thoughts of that out of your head. But she was younger than me, although we didn't age at the same rate because she decided to age normally and I don't, because I spent a lot of my time here and half of it, well, more than half of it there. But she eventually became my age and basically had to return me to the council, to the prime minister, and say this wasn't the guy, and we brought in we didn't, yeah, we brought in the dude that did, and we could provide proof that it was him. It went pretty well in the end, but it was just kind of sketchy at the beginning when she hated me with a burning passion. Of course, during that time, I couldn't come home at all because I couldn't get too far away from her, and to actually involve her in my life would have been both breaking the timeline and a pain. It would be something out of a very unusual book, uh, where they don't necessarily care about timeline or realism or anything like that. Where it's like, oh, this is my friend, she doesn't have a place to stay, we should keep her here and enroll her in my school, and make sure we don't get too far away from each other at any point in time. I feel like that would have been something very, I wasn't, I, for a bare second, considered taking her home. That sounds dirty as well. Uh, Bringing her with me, I should say, when I came home, but I never came home. I just stuck with her for the 2 years, kept myself at the same age for that entire duration, and eventually we went back before the council, and they were like, he hasn't aged, what the hell? But that was that. They let me go. And then they became an ally of the Time Travelers organization just because we had so much interaction with them. So we went back and saw them this past week. It was the doctor, myself. We did not take Devereaux, but Darren and Alec came with us. We went over there in the TARDIS. They hadn't seen the TARDIS before. Before we'd always come down in style in the Battle to Hell. But we took the TARDIS there. They were very happy to see us. There was, you know, we set up some scanners. We left some scanners with them for temporal incidents. They did pick up some stuff, but they weren't things directly related to the planet, so we didn't go after them then. We just kind of cataloged them, archived them, and sent them back to Mabel's for as missions to be distributed. A lot more stuff happens than you think, but we have so many people we can pretty much cover all of it. Yet we still pick up people. And you can never run out of place to put scanners, because, I mean, Mabel is a great AI and she runs really, really fast. Like, faster than I can fathom. But she can't monitor the entire continuum at once, so it's frankly just easier, instead of having her do it, to go out to all these places, set up monitoring stations, essentially, and then just check in with them for every once in a while. It's pretty cool the way we get those set up. We have all different ones. They're kind of different sets of technologies. We have ones that are like, you know, this tall, off the ground little tripod things, to you know, even tiny ones like, I don't know, I have a joystick over here. If I pulled it out, it'd be kind of a mess, but it's about this big. About this big. We have those. Those are really portable, but they don't have a good range at all. The tripod ones are kind of a good mid-range. They can get a couple of light years of coverage. By a couple of light years, I mean about a 10 light year radius from wherever they're planted. As long as they're powered right. We normally use these super efficient solar cells that are built in, and then of course this reader, which just kind of pokes into the continuum and takes readings. Then we have bigger ones. We have ones we have not building size ones, but we have like radio transmitter size ones. They aren't chunky. They aren't large. They're just very tall and spindly. What we tend to do is, if we're deploying these things, we drop them like big lawn darts, and they just boom, plunge into the ground of wherever we're leaving them, and then they open their solar cells and they absorb all the sunlight. Uh, You'd think it'd be easiest to run solar cells on a tidally locked planet, but it's not, because they tend to just overheat and burn up. Also, when the ground starts melting, that's a problem. Then there are other ones. There are ones we can drop in the ocean, oceans of planets, not even necessarily water oceans. And then we have then we do have the building size ones, but those don't stay on planets. They're more of orbital devices. They're basically space stations that are designed, and these things can cover like half a galaxy. So we don't hardly ever deploy these things. First of all, because they're a huge drain on resources to build. You think of us as a giant organization, but we don't have mines or anything. We don't have we have matter replicators that'll just build atoms out of other atoms, but they don't build big things, and also it takes a lot of power. We're on the Mabel's is on the opposite side of the Cardiff Rift. We are by the opposite side, I mean we're in void, basically. It's a man-made space-time bubble. It's basically a tiny bubble universe that we've built ourselves. And we're sitting on the other side of the Cardiff Rift, where power comes through. You can refill a TARDIS through it. We've seen the Doctor do it in Doctor Who. And it's created some problems in the past. But on the other side is just void, and there's nothing there blocking the energy coming through, so we get it a lot more readily. We have more power than we know what to do with, up to a point. Because when you start running matter replicators, it's like all your power's gone. In Star Trek, those were kind of low-level things. Frankly, they weren't suited for the kind of applications that we use them for. It's kind of weird the way they do things. It's much less of it's much less energy consuming. Whatever they do, they're not the same kind of things, but they're more efficient energy-wise, but they have these really unusual byproducts. I'm not sure how to explain it, but frankly, it's the kind of thing that you don't care about unless you're really going for longevity. And a lot of the Federation, the Starfleet ones, have to be, they have to be cleaned out manually or replaced or refurbished after, I don't know, a couple of decades or so, maybe half a century. And normally, of course, they aren't in service for that long. But the Time Travelers Organization ones, they're all built in the workshop, and we don't, frankly, again, our power requirements aren't limitless, but they're good enough that we can make these kind of super replicators that suck up more power, but just do what you want. They don't do anything else. They don't burn off chemical reactions in order to do what you want. Of course, I could go into the thing where Captain Janeway always makes a comment that her replicator overcooks food or ruins food, and it might. We had gone in. We're not sure if it's that was causing it, but it could have been the fact that there was a buildup of kind of extras, and in the, it fills up the lining, basically, of the replicator. It's designed to absorb it, but can only do it to a point, and then you get those leftovers into whatever you're making. It's a bloody mess. It's a bloody mess. Ours don't do that, but of course, ours, not only are they less energy efficient, they're much smaller. The Starfleet ones are like, well, they're even bigger than this. You can put a whole, like, pot roast in one. But ours are like this big. They're about a foot wide by half a foot tall, and the things we use them for are just generating little slabs of metal, usually. The food we can grow and make ourselves, but just little slabs of metal for little technology projects. If we need anything bigger than that, we get to start trading, which we do quite often, and we do have occasional stations which do resource harvesting, but we don't have too many designated mines. We don't go out looking for asteroids to suck the resources out of. But again, that's why we don't build. We've only built one ship to date, and I believe it was called Lucky 13. That wasn't my idea. And the transmitter things are even bigger than the replicators make. So, except for the small transmitters. What did I just call them transmitters twice in a row? They're scanners. But we don't build the building size ones. Frankly, they're only a theory. We have a blueprint of one, but we've never built one, and we've never seen one built. It's not the kind of thing you go out and make, because you can make a whole bunch of, arm-sized little scanners and just put them all over the galaxy instead of whatever else. Alright, that is my time for today, guys. And remember to ask questions if you have them. And I'll see you all next week. And keep on staring out at the stars. You might see a building-sized transmitter one of these days. But probably not.